Literature and Adivasi Culture by Vaharu Sonavane. Thane district is an Adivasi district, and it is a matter of joy that the 5th Adivasi Sahitya Sammelan is being held in a district which has such a militant tradition of struggle for justice. In our search for an identity, we encounter many questions about the nature of having a separate platform for Adivasi literature. If we want to answer such questions, we have to look into our history as well as literature. What is the relationship between Adivasi and the so called cultured non Adivasi society? We have to think as to how the specific lifestyle and culture of the Adivasi is depicted in their literature. And such consideration would indicate the necessity of an independent Adivasi Sahitya Sammelan. At the all India and state levels, various social groups organize their own literary conferences. Varied platforms of cultural movements have been set up, such as the Marathi Sahitya Sammelan, Dalit Sahitya Sammelan, Dalit Adivasi Gramin Samyukt Sahitya Sammelan, Jan Sahitya Sammelan. They are all expressive of varied identities and cultures, and they all put their stamp on the literary movement. That is a good thing. Of these platforms, we have been inspired by the literature of Dalits and the Bahujan Samaj, but even in these literatures, we do not find our imprint. We have become conscious that without carefully preserving the uniqueness that is ours, it will be difficult to have such an imprint. The context of Adivasi sorrows is different. Their problems also remain different. Their solution will also have to be sought in a different way. We will have to search for words on a different basis, and so the stream of Adivasi literature has also to be different. For this literature is also a search for our specificities. It is a search not only of literature but of Adivasi community and life itself. Adivasi history and Brahmanism. The origins of the human race lie in Africa. Until 10,000 years ago, the entire human race lived the life of Adivasis. Their life was dependent on the forest and on nature. During this state, humanity reached out to practically every corner of the world at a time when all of humanity was still in the Adivasi stage. Variety blossomed forth. The roots of the variety in human cultures today lie in this Adivasi stage. Following the discovery of agriculture, some tribes took to agriculture nearly 10,000 years ago. Only a few of the varied Adivasi communities took to agriculture, but those who did increased in population. Today, these appear before us as the majority. Nevertheless, one must remember that only a very few of all the varied human traditions were included in the making of this majority. The heritage of variety in human culture was preserved outside the realm of agriculture. Adivasis of Africa, America, and Asia preserved this heritage. They preserved this heritage while they were free and independent, and they preserved it even in slavery. They preserved it in the forest and even after they took to agriculture. When we speak only of India, Adivasis are depicted as coming from Hindu culture. What is this picture? How did it develop? There is some history behind this. The Indus civilization was the first culture based on agriculture. The Indus Valley people built and lived in cities. They practiced settled agriculture on the banks of the Indus and in what is today Punjab, Sindh, Rajasthan, and Gujarat. It seems there was some degree of female dominance in the Indus civilization. They also traded across the oceans with the distant civilization of Mesopotamia. It seems they had a balanced exchange with Adivasi communities. The Indus civilization was destroyed and buried by the wrath of time. It was attacked by the wandering, warlike, and male dominated Aryan tribes. Traces of this attack can be found in the Vedas. When Aryans came to India across the Khyber Pass, they were not very different from Adivasis. They lived by herding animals, gathering and eating fruits and roots, and practicing shifting cultivation with hoes. They also ate beef. They quarreled with others and among themselves over cattle. Even today, the Kathiawardis earn their livelihood by bringing hundreds of cows to Khandesh. It seems in the beginning there was not a very great differences of hierarchy among them, but patriarchal culture was dominant among Aryan tribes. During that period, more or less female dominant and equalitarian Adivasi tribes continued to live free in all other parts of India. As Aryan tribes moved in the direction of the Ganga and Yamuna Valley, certain transformations took place. The struggle between the original Adivasi, the tradition of the Indus civilization and the tradition of the Indo-European language speakers began to be transformed into a compromise. The Buddhist and Jain religions were a part of this transformation. A strong alliance of a minority of Brahmins and a handful of Rajas took one Adivasi tribe after another under their control through violence and aggression. They made them into toiling peasant slaves, paying taxes to Rajas. They settled them in the settled agriculture villages to enlarge their kingdoms. Between the 6th century BC, the period of Buddha, and the 5th, 6th centuries AD, a defined caste hierarchy and judgmony system was established. Most free Adivasi tribes became toiling castes, giving their surplus to Rajas and Brahmins and looking on each other as inferior. Such was the Brahmin dominated feudal society. The society had the capacity to slowly transform Adivasi tribes and absorb them in the caste hierarchy at lower levels. We are those who faced all this and yet remained free. What is our picture today in this society? To this, if anyone wants to use a metaphor for cruelty and horror, the image of the Rakshasa is used. This image is also used in literature. It is used in literature expressing love for animals and birds. But have these lovers of animals and birds ever expressed love for Rakshasas? No. The Rakshasas also had children, wives, husbands, and their own domestic life. They also knew happiness and sorrow. The Rakshasas are the Adivasis of those times. Adivasi were still living their lives in the depths of forests and on the tops of hills and mountains. Adivasis had complete authority over these forests and hills. No permission was required to hunt or gather fruits, flowers, and wood in the forest. The Aryans came to India over the Khyber Pass riding on chariots and horses to get land for agriculture and pasture for their large cattle herds. They began to encroach on Adivasi lands on the strength of their weapons and horses. Adivasis would perform the Homa sacrifice and declare, "This area has become ours." When the Adivasis resisted, the Aryans became enraged. Aryans went to their ruler, Raja Sri Ramachandra ji, and pleaded, "Protect us from the Rakshasas, our herds need open fields." And under the leadership of Ramachandra ji, Adivasis of that time were slaughtered and crushed as Rakshasas. Drama culture has been so deeply absorbed by Adivasis of today that even when they watch on the TV or the killing or the cinema, the killing of Rakshasas, they applaud and express happiness. Adivasi history and culture, along with all human values, are being erased. If we turn the pages of history, what are the other pictures that appear? Adivasi children have no right to education. Eklavya, inspired and determined to learn, made an earthen statue of his guru and became more skilled than Arjun in archery. Dronacharya could not endure this achievement of an Adivasi. By cutting Eklavya's thumb in the name of Guru Dakshina, Adivasi achievement was suppressed. That Dronacharya was a villain is not noticed in literature or in history. Revolutionaries like Khazya Nayak, Tanti Bhil, Ramdas Maharaj, Bhagoli Nayak, Bisra Munda, Rani Durgavati fought in the struggle of free enslaved India. Numerous Adivasis shed their blood for independence from British rule, but Adivasi heroes are little noticed in the pages of established history books. Adivasi culture and the mainstream. It is often said that Adivasis should come into the mainstream. I ask myself, whose is this mainstream? Who built it? It will not do for anyone to create a stream and ask Adivasis to join it. We should be participants in creating the stream, and we will not be participants in any stream in which Adivasis cannot get justice. In the mainstream of today, justice for Adivasis can be hardly seen. The strange thing is that culture is taken to mean religion. Therefore, efforts are made by everyone not only to bring us into the mainstream but to drag us into their religion. Christians are working among Adivasis. They say that their aim is to educate Adivasis and make them wise. That they have established schools even in remote forests difficult to reach and educated Adivasi children is a good thing. But behind the parda of such good things, a majority of Adivasis have been dragged into the Christian religion. Adivasis have been obliged to turn away from their traditional life and culture and adopt the Christian religion and culture. Anyone has the right to propagate or accept any religion, but it is undemocratic to drag people into a religion through deception. Religious conversion by holding up the carrot of welfare and development has not stopped. Even Dharamwala says, every Dharamwala says, "Come into our religion and we will solve your problems." Competition has begun among them to see who can get the greatest share of Adivasis. Are Adivasis simply things to be divided up? Destruction of culture has gone on through various paths, through love and religion, in the name of protection and development, through various kinds of incentives, or simply through dadagiri. Efforts to infiltrate Hindu culture into Adivasis can also be seen. This is going on in diverse ways. In some areas, Adivasis have not opposed this, but wherever there was opposition, Adivasi culture has endured. If today we were to search for Adivasi Devtas, where would they be found? Adivasi Devtas have been soiled. The reason is that fundamentalists have deliberately cast a spell of Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or other gods among Adivasis. So it is that instead of Devtas, Rama and Krishna of the Hindus, Pirs of the Muslims, Jesus of the Christians are to be found in the Adivasi houses. But the tiger god, the god of the mountains, Rajapantha, Raja Kajal, and a host of other gods and Devtas of various Adivasi communities would not be found. There is a systematic attempt to wipe out Adivasi gods and goddesses. This is evident in recent secret efforts of Hindu religionists. In Dhule district of Khandesh, the greatest gods of Adivasis are Raja Pantha, Ganda Thakur, and Kajal. An attempt is being made to deceive Adivasis about the identity of these gods. They are being told Rajapantha means Arjun, Rani Kajal means Draupadi, and Ganda Thakur means Krishna. And Adivasis find it convincing and satisfying. They are happy since all this is told to them with embellishment. But one must remember that Rajapantha's story tells how wood for the fire was finished. He put his own feet on the hearth and distilled alcohol. It is conveniently forgotten that there is no such story about Arjun and alcohol. And suppose Rajapantha and Arjun are the same, then why is it that the culture of Rajapantha is ignored and that of Arjun brought forward? Another such affair concerns the Indiraja of Adivasis. Indiraja doesn't mind alcohol or meat, but Indiraja and Krishna are said to be one and the same. Here it should be noted that the Adivasi Indiraja was an unmarried virgin god, and Krishna? Let us not talk about the black acts of Krishna. Yahamog, the Adivasi goddess, also appears to be becoming Hinduized. Thus, the names of Adivasi gods are wiped out, and Adivasis are taught that they are the same as Hindu gods. Adivasis are not Hindus. The Hindu code bill does not apply to Adivasis. Adivasis used to greet each other with Hazaki or Varlaske. Some still do. In Bihar, some communities say Johar. In the 1940s, there was an Adivasi saint named Gulam Maharaj in Khandesh. He never asked his devotees to say Ram Ram. He began a new tradition of greeting with Aapki Jai. The tradition still persists. He be- but the namaskar of different communities is being deliberately erased, and the greeting Ram Ram is being implanted in its place. Today, Adivasi educated youth are being lowered by respectability. They say, "Hey, you are educated, cultured? Why do you perform marriages according to backward customs? Call a Brahmin for your marriage ceremonies." Brahmins don't perform the marriage ceremony among Adivasis. Alcohol is unacceptable to Brahmins. A headman or an Adivasi priest performs the marriage ceremony. They are known by different names, but now some Adivasi youth feel it is a sign of respectability to call Brahmins for their marriage ceremony. This value is consciously implanted in them. And so it is that Adivasis of Thane district call Brahmins for their marriage ceremony. All of humankind as one is a value honored by Adivasis. Therefore, they do not strictly abide by religious restrictions. Thus, daughters of Adivasis marry Hindus, Muslims, and Christians, but it is clear the latter don't approve of that and are the first to force the acceptance of their religion. I'm not religious. I don't believe in God. Neither God nor religion have ever given me justice, nor can they give it to me. I do not believe in ghosts and spirits, but I do think if anyone wants to believe in a religion, it should be like the Adivasi religion. Above all, Adivasi religion never shows scorn for other religions. Adivasi gods do not need a temple, they are always with us. They are our friends, our ancestors. They are like wise humans who came long before us. They don't impose great restrictions on what we can and cannot do. In our festivals, we derive no satisfaction in putting our heads at the feet of our gods. These festivals are opportunities for us to come together and enjoy life. Our God does not ask us to turn our backs on the world. In fact, they increase our love of life. Those who think of us as backward and have created so many problems. In India today, extreme hatred for other religions in the name of Hindu religion and Hindu nation is growing. It is important to oppose this sectarian fundamentalism from a humanitarian point of view. It is inhumane for any community to impose its religion or culture on others. The speciality of Indian culture is that numerous cultures and conceptions of religion have been able to live within it. But today, in the name of Hinduism, Brahmanican fundamentalism is assuming a terrible form. It poses a danger not only to other religions but also to the pluralistic culture of India. One's self pride takes the form of chauvinism. Sectarian emotions are fostered, and that is always suicidal. If there were to be only Adivasi gods, problems like that of Ram Janambhoomi Babri Masjid would never have arisen. For Adivasis, all of nature is our temple. Our God cannot be imprisoned in a temple. This uniqueness, which has been ours, is being endangered. Environment and culture, there are no flowers and fruits left for us after the destruction of forests by the government and contractors. Herbs and roots we used for medicines are no more. We can no longer hunt in our forests because of the destruction of the support bases of Adivasi life. They are forced to leave their villages for the cities. With the disappearance of forests, they are forced to abandon human values and their culture and live according to the culture of caste hierarchy and exploitation. In every Adivasi's the area, the banner of environment and forest laws has been used to are being used to expel Adivasis by force and fraud. Such attempts to exclude Adivasis from their ancestral living space are also being made in Dhule district. Adivasis need development and progress, which does not destroy Adivasi life. False lovers of our culture. In strange ways, many of us have been overwhelmed by the love of others for our culture. It has become something of fashion to visit Adivasis on Saturdays and Sundays and praise our culture. Some of them try to preserve our bhagats and our mantriks. But our culture is surely much more than that. Thus, we need to be clear in our minds as to what in our culture we would want to maintain and what we would not want to maintain. The first and foremost value and reality for Adivasis is the community. Community life constitutes the core of Adivasi culture. If anyone wants to plow the land or build a house or undertake any work which cannot be done all alone, that person can always rely on mutual aid traditions like lake or lake. The lake tradition requires that one who calls for lake provides the meals and the drink. In case of a quarrel between people in two villages, the quarrel is treated not as an individual problem but as a problem of the village. And in case of a quarrel within the village, the custom is that all the villagers sit as a panchayat and dispense justice. Adivasis don't like to get into mess of taking cases to courts. Of course, under the pressure of today's mainstream, all these values and practices have begun to disintegrate. One must remember that the Adivasi community, to a greater or lesser degree, also exists among the Bahujan castes. The difference is that in those cases, the stamp of the caste system is very deep. Brahmanic cultural values of hereditary occupations have been internalized by Adivasis. In certain cases, panchayats have strongly opposed the employment of some people as teachers. Brahmanic culture has also given some degree of autonomy to caste panchayats, but in exchange, they were forced to accept the principle of caste hierarchy. Besides, Brahmanic culture had no choice but to give some autonomy to caste panchayats of the Bahujan Samaj because hundreds of independent Adivasi communities continued to exist outside Brahmanic control. Therefore, we need to maintain our independence and uniqueness. When I see the furor of love over love marriages in non-Adivasi society, I feel like laughing. For us, love marriage is such a spontaneous thing. Love between women and men is only natural. Among Adivasis, this love retains a natural spontaneity. Marriages are not between families or lineages, but between a man and a woman. Great literature is woven in the songs women sing about this love. Adivasis look up on each other primarily as friends, be they young or old, man or woman. Begging some among Adivasis used to be unknown. The crippled and helpless were always taken care of by the community. Every person is accepted as separate and unique. Adivasis cherish pluralism among individuals. Therefore, suicide is so rare among Adivasis. The meaning of literature. To define literature as that which is written is very unsatisfactory from the Adivasi standpoint. The dividing walls between literature and art, literature and life, which exist in other societies, have no place in Adivasi society. Adivasi songs, stories, plays, and other forms are rich in thought and feeling. It is a tradition that has survived for thousands of ages. Are we to say that is not literature? No. If an art form erupts from the heart and reaches out to others and makes human life beautiful, then we must recognize that as literature, be that written or not. Adivasi literature should be divided into the written and the unwritten. Both types of literature are extremely important in Adivasi life. We should consciously strive to make both forms go forward hand in hand. That should be one of the tasks for the Adivasi literary movement. Adivasi unwritten literature is submerged in folk art, and the two must stay together. Just think how one would feel about a Rodali song that has been written down on paper and never sung to the accompaniment of a drum. Folk art has an important place in Adivasi society and it must be consciously preserved. It is the sign that Adivasi life is alive. Dhol, biri, mandal, tudya, pava, muri, pava, larpa, and the sur of telling stories all denote art forms. The full uniqueness of the unity and breadth of Adivasi literature and its place in life does not receive adequate attention in the existing literary platforms, and therefore the need for an independent Adivasi Sahitya Sammelan. There are no quick and simple answers to the question of as to what Adivasiness is. Answers to this question have to be sought in the process of artistic literary creation. What is, however, certain is the idea of Adivasi culture as something backward and superstitious has to be definitely demolished. The concept that Adivasis have to be reformed has also to be thrown out. Adivasi Sahityaka has a great responsibility. Each one should think how his or her art and criticism can be useful for enlightening social life. The good in Adivasi culture should be praised, but at the same time, it is our responsibility to point out the things which are bad. We should not forget to encourage the community to discard bad things in our culture. At the same time, we should be careful not to hurt Adivasi pride. Women in Adivasi culture. In the society which considers itself cultured, women are often tortured for the sake of dowry. Not only are they driven to suicide in so many cases, kerosene is poured on women and they are burned to death. Women like Rup Kamar are forced into sati. Such murderous customs do not exist among Adivasis, and this cultured society remains deaf to their agony. But such a society we call progressive. Adivasi women do not regard their husbands as gods. There is no tradition among Adivasis of women enduring all kinds of torture as a sign of respectability. Rather than suffer harassment and torture at the hands of a husband or in laws, where Adivasi women prefer to leave such a husband and find another husband. Of course, this does not mean that Adivasi women are free of sorrows completely, but the problems of Adivasi women are not due to social cultural backwardness. In fact, the Hindu and Muslim religions are extremely backward in that respect. The relative disadvantage to which Adivasi women are subject is due to the institution of patriarchy. Women constitute half of society. They also possess literary and artistic skills. Adivasi women can be forceful right. Adivasi women can be forceful writers and artists, but certain ideas and customs in Adivasi society obstruct the development of this power. The pressure of the patriarchal system tends to suppress the artistic gifts of women. In Adivasi societies, women are repressed as man eating witches. Adivasi women are denied participation in village panchayats. The idea prevails that woman can be bought by giving an inappropriate bride price. She is treated as an object and a slave because of the custom of polygamy. Whenever there is a serious quarrel, the unwanted woman is simply thrown out. And the excuse given is that it is a quarrel between women. Women are also beaten by drunken husbands. Adivasi women are repressed in various ways. The voice of Adivasi women is hardly ever heard in written Adivasi literature. Adivasi men should be enlightened about this. A supportive atmosphere for women needs to be created. True freedom for Adivasi women would only come if Adivasi women themselves come together. Only then would their independent voices be heard. The strength of that position can be seen from the writings of Adivasi and black women in America. Going forward to the future, we are aware that a transformation is going on in the world. We have to see how far ahead the modern world has gone and also how far backward it has gone. We will not allow ourselves to be caged in the name of preserving our culture. We are going to be educated, we are going to be engineers, pilots, and artists. Our culture will not be destroyed by this. We are confident that the things we want to preserve are important even in the changed modern situation. In striving to be engineers or industrial workers, we will not throw away these things, for these values are helpful in bringing about a free human society of the future. In this work, all Dalits, exploited toilers, and women have to stand up together. We don't want only to praise our history, we want to build the future. Our fight begins with the refusal to accept Brahmanic dominance and Brahmanic culture. We have to take with us all those who are suppressed under Brahmanic dominance. From this point of view, we must fully support the Mandal Commission. In recent years, a lot of literature about Adivasis has been created by Durga Bhagat, Nath Gaund, Sudam Jadhav, Gudutai Parulekar, Anutal Wagh, Dinanath Manohar, Jagdish Godbole, Sharad Patel, Gail Omvedert, and other non Adivasi writers. Of these, some writers are researchers seeking to help the social movement go forward, others do research to win degrees, yet others write books to make money. Some others simply create literature for the sake of literature. But since these writers are not Adivasis, the emotions and mental struggles, the joys and sorrows of Adivasi life do not find full authentic expression in their literature. Even as many educated Adivasi youth remain engrossed in employment and are indifferent to their society, some youth have begun to seriously think about their society, and a new generation of educated Adivasi youth have begun to search for their own identity through literary writings. Numerous Adivasi writers, artists, and critics such as Dr. Govind Gare, Rashi Maharaj Masraj, Bhujang Meshram, Netaji Raj Gadkar, Ravi Kursange, Usha Kiran, Akram, Raja Bhau, I will be skipping these names, Racing Thakro have forcefully created the Adivasi literary movement. Eklavya felt the need to win respectability from the upholders of the established society and cut off his own thumb. Adivasi writers, artists, and critics must first of all, break free from such a mentality. Our responsibility henceforward should be to create a literature that will give us historical justice. Dramas, stories, povadas, Rodalia songs must be written on such Adivasi heroes as Tantya Bhil, Bhagoji Naik, Bisra Munda, Rani Durgavati, Ramdas Maharaj, Ambar Singh Mahara, and others. Literature must be created to bring about a new dawn for the Adivasi. If we can create such literature for a liberated human society, we all want the first reward is sure to come from our own society. I would conclude with an account of an Adivasi response to a reading of poetry. 15 to 20 people were sitting together in front of a hut in a village. Some old women were also there, but poetry was a new thing to these people. I opened the poetry notebook, and when I started to read my Bhilori poetry, these Adivasi laborers didn't say wow, but instead started to laugh tremendously and told me to read the poems again. I read the same poems again. They laughed uproariously again and finally becoming serious, said, True, brother, true. Our writers must preserve this natural laughter and the equal spontaneous thoughtfulness that is uniquely ours.